Welcome. We into the 15-minute weekly chat about life, mindset shifting. I'm your host, Demasha K, and I'm just coming to you for just this weekly 15 minutes, or sometime it end up being a little 20 minutes. I don't know, y'all. I don't know. But today we're going to talk about is why most people don't finish what they started. So that's the topic for today. And hopefully we can get through it because sometimes I don't get through it. And here I am talking about it. I'll get through it today. What happens is a lot of comments be coming in sometimes. So it's hard to get finished with it at the time that is allotted. Why most people don't finish what they started. Let's start with the hard question, right? This is the hard question. The hard question is how many people, or how, no, not how many people, how many things have you started quietly and walked away from them? Just let that sink in for a second. How many things have you started quietly and walked away from them? Like, okay, you didn't even tell nobody. You just like, yeah, I started this. I started this, but then you walked away from it. How many walked away from courses? I'm gonna even raise my hand because there have been times that I have walked away from courses. Like I'll start a course and then I won't finish it or I'll come back to it at a later time. How many people have walked away from businesses, healing journeys? Now, this is the big one, gym memberships. I think we all can raise our hands at that. We don't walked away from gym memberships before. How many of us walked away from content pages? Dreams you told everybody about, you just walked away from them, gave up on them. I'm done with that. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm done. Not because you weren't capable and not because you weren't talented. It was because somewhere along the line, you just decided, I'm going to stop. I'm stopping. So that's why we're talking about why most people don't finish what they started. So you walked away from these things. And like I said, it's not a lot of times people will beat themselves up and they'll feel like I wasn't capable to do that. I wasn't able to do that. But that's not the truth. You are capable, you are talented. Somewhere along the line, something stopped. Maybe it was the passion that you had for that thing. Maybe it was a situation that occurred during that thing. And today we're not blaming like motivation. We're not blaming time. We're not even blaming life. We're going to tell the truth about it so that we can move to the next level. See, when you start telling the truth about stuff and you start going deep within, then you can press on to something else. Most people don't quit because it's hard. They quit because the feeling changes. Now, y'all know some of us be getting in our feelings. We be feeling some type of way. It'd be like, I don't know if I really want to do that. I don't know how I feel about this anymore. Most people start things emotionally. Some people do. They see something, they think, oh, I really like that. I had fun at knitting or crocheting, or I had fun at helping somebody build their business. I think I'm gonna start a business. They start when they start when they're inspired, when they're hyped, when they watch the video, when they just heard a quote, when the pain pushes them to the breaking point. That's when people start stuff. But excitement is temporary. When you really think about it, excitement is temporary. So if you start something out of emotion, you got to remember that emotion is a temporary feeling. It may change at some point, at some time. If your if your consistency depends on how you feel, you'll never finish anything meaningful. If your consistency depends on how you feel, you will never finish anything meaningful because finishing doesn't happen in the excitement phase, right? That's not when you start finishing something. Finishing happens in the boredom, the repetition, the silence, the discomfort, the days when nobody checks on you and asks you, like, how's it going? How's things going with your new project that you're working on? Or how is the business going? Or that's not when the finishing comes. The finishing comes in those bad moments, the times when you don't feel emotionally like, I can do this. You feel drained, you feel frustrated, you feel like doors are closing on. That's when the finishing happens. And nobody prepares us for that part. Because like I said yesterday, I was like, everybody is always talking about building a business, having a business. And they're like, oh, it's so good. Yeah, I'm making so much money. But they don't tell y'all that it's really hard. It's really frustrating. Nobody talks about that part. Here's where it's a little deeper. Most people don't finish they because of their identity is not sustaining them. They feel like the announcement, the vision, the title, the like all of those different things combined in one are like, "Hmm, do I really want to do this? Can I really complete this?" Yes, you can. But they avoid. These are the things that people avoid when they're starting something. They avoid the routine because getting the routine is very hard. It's not easy. They avoid the structure. If you have not learned structure, because structure is a learned skill, if you have not learned structure, it's hard to grasp a hold of structure because this is a consistent everyday thing, just like routine. And some people have not learned the accountability of being the boss of themselves or starting a project and completing it, meaning by holding themselves accountable. Some of the hardest things for us to do is hold ourselves accountable. It is hard. I don't know why. We want to hold everybody else accountable, but we don't want to hold ourselves accountable. And this is a simple example, right? So yesterday, hey, so yesterday I was like, there was something on my floor, like a little string or something. And I was thinking to myself, like, you know what? I passed over this string like 5 or 6 times. Generally, I would fuss at my kids, like, why do y'all keep leaving that same thing on the floor? I would had to look at myself like, wait a minute, I gotta hold myself accountable for something too. And that's a simple example. But this is why most people don't finish what they started. How you doing? Hey everybody, how y'all doing? This is the simple reason why people don't finish what they started because accountability. And then here comes creeping in is responsibility. So if you're accountable, that means you're responsible, right? Saying that people are not responsible. Sometimes people are only responsible to a degree until they learn that accountability, that routine, and that structure. So those things get a little, like they get a little topsy-turvy, they get a little twisted and construed sometimes because we don't realize all the time that we need all of those things at the same time. We need the routine, we need the structure, we need the accountability, and we need the responsibility. But let me be clear. Starting makes you feel powerful. Like when you get ready to start something, you feel like, yes, I'm about to do this. You hype, you feel good inside. You're like, I got this, I got this. Finishing requires humility. And I'll say it again, finishing requires humility. Every time my kids would play sports, right? They would get frustrated because, like practice is all the time and all these things or whatever. And so mid-year, when they were little, every year, mid-year, they would want to quit. They would be like, I'm tired. I want to quit. And I would tell them, absolutely not. We're going to finish this through. I'm tired too. I'm having to come to the games, pay for the games, take you to practice, take you to the game, stay all day. I'm tired too. But you made a commitment and we are going to finish this through. And as they got older, I didn't have to keep telling them that anymore. because I created that routine and that structure and that accountability, which made them now responsible. So all of these things take time. And yes, they are frustrating. And yeah, who wants to be in a routine? But if you start something and you want to finish it, you have to put yourself in that routine. Finishing requires the humility because finishing forces you to confront your inconsistencies. And a lot of us have inconsistencies. Inconsistency is something that you have to be aware of and then you change it. Finishing helps you force face the your excuses. How many of us make excuses? I made an excuse today about getting online. I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna make oatmeal. Oh, I'm gonna have a conversation." Then my son came in here, he started talking to me, and I was like, "You know what? I'm making an excuse. It's just because I feel like it's cloudy outside of the relax." No, I need to do what I need to do. Stop blaming others because that's what finishing is. It's you saying, "I'm not gonna blame anybody for me not finishing this project. I'm not gonna blame anybody for me not building this business. I'm not going to do that." Finishing means grow when it's uncomfortable because it be uncomfortable trying to grow. You want me to grow and then you want me to have discipline and you want me to have routines. And I know y'all probably like, nah, Demasha, now we ain't got time for this. But you do. You do. And many people would rather feel inspired than to be disciplined. We love inspiration. It makes us feel good inside. It makes us happy and it makes you feel like you're supported and you're loved. The thing that frustrates us though is when we have to be disciplined. And that discipline comes from you. It doesn't come from anybody else because you're an adult. So now you don't have parents telling you what to do. You don't have people, you have to do it. You have to make the choice and say, this is what I want to do. Most people don't quit when things get hard. They quit when things get quiet. Because a lot of us be like, I'm a survivor. I can get through this. I got this. That's not your quitting point. You quit when nobody is clapping for you. I had one of my clients the other day tell me, like, I'm not posting content anymore because nobody likes my stuff. And I said, nobody? No, I'm not doing that. I'm not posting content no more because nobody likes my stuff. I said, well, why are you worried about people liking it? You posting the content to get the information out there, right? So because nobody is liking what you're doing, you're done. One of my business clients, I don't think I want to build a business anymore. You don't want to build a business anymore? Why? What happened? Because nobody's purchasing my items. I said, you just started 3 months ago. It doesn't happen. So you have to keep going even when nobody's clapping. The quitting doesn't start when you're quiet. It starts when you don't see the results. That's when people quit. They quit when they don't see the results. When progress is invisible. And this is for everybody. I can remember like way back when I first started doing my coaching and my talk show and stuff. And I remember like, dang, nobody listening. Nobody's listening. Nobody's listening. And then all of a sudden I started looking at the analyticals and people were listening. They were in tune. They were understanding and getting what I was saying. But that progress seemed invisible. So for me, it was easier to say like, I'm about to quit. I'm done with it. I'm not doing this anymore. People don't quit when things get hard. They quit when things get quiet. When validation disappears. And this is a big one because we all want that. You're doing a great job. I love what you're doing. We all want that pat on the back, but it doesn't work that way all the time. Sometimes you got to pat yourself on the back and you got to keep going because that's how you get there. because comfort has trained people to expect instant feedback. Instant feedback? Is that reality? Or is something going on in the space where it's like, something ain't right? But real growth, because that's what we're doing real growth because real growth is what's sustainable. Real growth happens when nobody sees you. That's when the real growth happens. Real growth happens when nobody reminds you, and real growth happens when nobody rescues you. And the question becomes, can you keep going when the reward is delayed? Can you keep going when the reward is delayed? That's where most people stop. That's why most people don't finish what they started. Here's the core reason most people don't finish. This is the core reason. They don't have systems, only emotion. Everything is based off of emotion. They don't have systems, only emotion. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is structural. People say, I just need to get motivated again. I just need to get motivated again. No, you need a plan that doesn't depend on motivation. A plan that doesn't depend on motivation. You need a non negotiable time block. This is when I'm doing this. This is when this is happening. And the biggest one is you need realistic expectations. Because sometimes I don't think that we have realistic expectations. I think our expectations are based off of people who put on a facade. And then when we really get into these things, like when we really get into building a business or we get into changing our life and real growth, we realize like somebody lied to us because this is not, these expectations that I had for this thing are not true. You need boring routines. Last night I was creating content for one of my pages and I was feeling like so distracted because I was like, okay, I got the TV on, the music on, and it's because I was bored. Like I was bored with what I was doing, but I had to push through it. I didn't have a choice because if you don't want to be one of those people that keep starting and not finishing things, you have to be bored sometimes. You have to be bored sometimes. Small, repeatable actions is another thing that will help you get to that place of where you're able to finish things. Small, repeatable actions. Do little things in little blocks. It's okay. Finishing is not about intensity, it's about consistency when it's boring. Consistency when it's boring. Stop asking, how do I stay motivated? Stop asking, what can I do even on my worst days? Just do it because finishing doesn't feel different. It helps you decide differently. I'm going to say that again. Finishing doesn't feel different. It helps you decide differently. Let me ask you this, right? What have you been starting but not sustaining? What have you been starting but not sustaining? And then what do you what do you disappear? Where do you disappear when it gets uncomfortable? When you start something that you're not sustaining, where do you disappear when you get uncomfortable with that thing? Are you committed to the results or just the idea? Because some people have told me before, I've asked this in many classes before, and I'll ask people like, "Are you committed to results or just the idea?" And people will be like, "Hmm, well, it was a good idea, so I don't know because the results taking too long." So I would say I'm committed to the idea. So we have to shift that. You have to become more committed to the results because the idea is great, but the results is what's going to get the idea out there. Finish this through. I want you to think about this. Finish this sentence. I do not need to feel ready. I do not need to feel ready. You don't need to feel ready. People come and they tell me their idea and they're like, but I don't have money or I don't have this. I'd be like, just start it one thing at a time. There's like, well, I only got product for one, only got product for one thing. And I'd be like, well, make that one thing and sell it. Then go back and get another one thing with the money that you get and sell that too. It's okay. It is okay to start small. It is okay to start in that space. People will say, I need to stay committed. Okay, do it. If you wake up Monday and you've committed to something in your mind, you said, this is what I'm going to do, right? This is what I'm going to do. And you get up and you don't follow through with it, tell yourself the same thing the next day. But do another action that's going to help you get to that space. So if you tell yourself, today I'm going to, when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to start doing content on food. All right. So you realize that first day you didn't take the food out. When you think about it, go do it. Take that out. Prep everything up. And sometimes you have to force yourself. You have to push yourself to the limit. And that's okay. Because starting builds confidence, but finishing builds identity. And I say it again, starting builds confidence and finishing builds identity. And once you become someone who finishes, everything changes. Everything changes. In my household growing up, you had to get your high school diploma. It was a must. There was no options. Your one option was high school diploma, graduating, that's it. College wasn't a must. We could go to a technical school or something like that, which was completely fine. But when I went, I got my bachelor's degree. And when I got my bachelor's degree, I felt like, oh, you know what? I could get my master's degree. Now, my bachelor's degree, hard, very hard, very hard. It seemed like it took forever. But then, but then, when I went to go get my master's degree, oh, this was 18 months. I could do 18 months. I just feel like I did a whole 10-year bid to get my bachelor's degree because I started and I built that confidence. But the finishing is what got me to the identity I am right now. That's what started flourishing my identity. And once you become, like I said, someone who finishes, everything will start to change. Most people, right? Most people don't fail because they're incapable. Because you're not incapable, you are capable. They fail because they stop showing up once it stops feeling good. And at some point, we got to get away from that point where it's like, okay, I'm going to start this thing, but once it stopped feeling good, I'm not going to do it anymore. Because at that point, we'll never finish anything. We'll just keep going in circle and circle and circle and circle, never get into the goal that we really want to get to. I appreciate y'all for listening. This is Zip Mouth Motivation. Like I said, as always, follow me on all platforms, Demasha K or Zip Mouth Motivation. Catch me every Tuesday, 101.5 Indie Radio. And if you are looking for a coach or looking for some sessions, definitely tap in with me on one of my platforms. I love y'all. Have a wonderful midday. I hope you got to listen to this during lunch.